Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. We're so glad you're here with us. And we hope that you're enjoying some beautiful work as we kick off this new year together. We are, aren't we, Laurel?
We are.
We are. And our episode today is one that maybe you relate to. I know that I do. And I think my partner in crime over here does as well. And so we can't wait to talk to you and share our thoughts and ideas on this topic, which is releasing fear and scarcity thinking. So, in our mindset month this January of 2023, we are digging right into what are you thinking? How are you feeling? And how can you begin to redirect your thinking to do some beautiful inner work and have a beautiful life? Yeah.
Yes. And what a great time, kicking off the new year with some shift in mindset, or at least awareness of what your current mindset is, to really create a year that's going to be incredible for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about.
I do too. I do too. And I want to encourage our listeners to know that you have all the tools within you to do this work. If you think that you can't, or you're worried that you can't, or you're afraid that you can't, I want you to know that you have all the tools within you to do whatever it is that you want to do in this beautiful work. We all do. And it's just a matter of, do you want to do it? And how do you want your life to change? And are you willing to dig in and play with us here in this field of inner
Yes.
work? Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And you also, in addition to having everything you need to do this inner work, you have resources, support systems, friends, circles. I mean, us, right? Come
Yes.
into our Facebook group where you will find support. But there are so many people that are doing this beautiful work and can share experiences or just hold your hand as you do it. I mean, that's why I'm here with you.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like some of the people that I encounter along the way feel like people aren't doing the work, and there's a lot of bad things going on in the world, and we're headed in a bad place and all that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you that if you come into our circle, right, and come into circles like this, and you begin to engage with people that really are doing the work, you begin to feel more hopeful about life, because there are many, many people in the world that are doing consciousness raising work and really changing, old habits and old ways, and are in tune with all the things that inner work brings us into, and can talk to you about it. So
Yes,
we're here. We can do it. Yeah,
that's
and we can do
right.
it together.
And what a great, when you think our topic today is fear and scarcity, knowing that there is no scarcity in the world, in your community, or even in the Facebook world,
Right.
there's no scarcity of people that are doing this work and raising consciousness and, just trying to evolve and change and grow.
Yeah.
So I love that.
I do too. I want to encourage people to challenge any thinking that you have, because this would be a great scarcity thinking to begin to release it and challenge it. Is if you feel like I can't find my people, I can't find the people that, I really relate to, is like, okay, well, I challenge you to go out and move into some different circles, right? And to begin to have some different conversations with people, and to trust also as you're maybe on social media. That's how Laurel and I found each other. I literally trusted my gut. I read some of Laurel's posts. I was like, wow, I really like this woman. I don't know her at all. I don't know why I got connected with her, but here, I love what she's saying. And then here we are on the podcast 2 years later, right? And we're off and running with all kinds of good fun together. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there is no scarcity. We have access to like-minded people, no matter where they are. So I think that's a good reminder, changing up your social circles, or just the circles that you may, live within, expand them. It's not comfortable sometimes, but you will find, if you are seeking, you will find what you need.
Yes. All right. So we can start right there with releasing fear and negative thinking, right? And scarcity thinking, negative or scarcity thinking. You can toss negative in there. It's not going to be in our title, but let's toss it in there, because that's kind of another word that would create a sense of limitations, shall we say. So, beginning right there, Laurel, we when we begin this process, we often need to notice, right, who is around us and what is their thinking and how much fear and anxiety do they hold and project and talk about. Because one, I know we're going to kind of check in with each other on like, where do you start with this, or where are you with that, right? And I feel like one of the places that I love Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil. So I'll make that as a suggestion for people on this topic. It's a really good one. And he talks about hypnotic rhythm. And also the word entrainment is really good here too, to understand. And that is noticing, being aware that the people that are around you, that you interact with most, you tend to entrain with them, with their vibration, with their thinking, with their emotional states, because if there's a lot of interaction going on, that's just how the energy system works, so to speak. It's like, putting a magnet near another magnet, and if they either repel or they come close together, that's part of our makeup as humans. We're magnetic electrical fields, right? Yeah. So take inventory right there as you begin to notice, if you want to release fear and scarcity, negative thinking, how much of it is around you? What are you entrained to right now?
Yes. I mean, I think that it is so true. What do they say, that your 5 people that are closest to you, or that you become,
Yes.
the sum of 5 people that are closest to you. And so I think that evaluation is really good, noticing who are you spending your time with? What is their mindset? Is it getting you a step closer to or further away from the mindset and life that you want to live? And then I would ask too, before we just quickly decide, oh, they're in this category and they're in this category, and start getting rid of people. I'm not suggesting that.
Yes, no, that's not what we're suggesting.
When you are noticing that maybe your mindset is not being enhanced by someone else, the question, what can I learn from this experience? What can I learn from them? Right?
Yeah.
How can, those people that might be in your get rid of category, what if they're simply messengers for you to learn and grow?
Yes.
So that is one question I would have. And we've talked the fear, scarcity, maybe negative. I also want to throw in the word lack, that it's often the lack and scarcity mindset that creates fear and becomes negative, right?
Yes.
Doesn't lift us up. So it is interesting when, for me, even though it's something I work on, sometimes I feel myself or experience, those days where I might say, I don't even like myself. I warn everyone, today's the day I don't even like myself. It might be that I'm stuck in a little bit of a fear or lack, mud puddle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
yeah. Yeah. I love the word lack too, Laurel, because a phrase that comes up for me is, which is a good one to help you begin to identify where you might be feeling the lack, is I don't have, or I don't like, right? Because I feel like those phrases, whenever you're saying those or thinking those, I don't have XYZ. I don't like XYZ. If you begin to watch your thinking is connected to a sense of lack in your life. And
yes.
So to be able to catch that and see yourself and say, okay, and begin to rethink it, right? So speak to yourself. Notice if you're saying, I don't have all the money I want, right? You could start to rephrase that and say, I'm working towards having, the kind of monetary experience I would hope to have for, like you can start to change the words, because the words are, again, what are creating the inner belief, which are creating the thoughts and the feelings. And, it's this whole deep connection. So to begin to detangle that and notice what the habitual thoughts are and change them, redirect them.
Yes. And I think that's a really good reminder. I use this one with time. You hear people all the time say, there's never enough time in the day, or I didn't have enough time, or I don't have time. And, I hold on to those things when I start to use that language and remind myself that there's 24 hours in the day every day. Time is not, I don't lack time. I have the same amount of time I had yesterday and will have tomorrow.
Right.
And so what language can I use that makes me feel, that I'm not lacking time?
Yeah. I'm going to be really harsh on this one, because I know I felt the same way, like I was always multitasking and doing this, and, I didn't have enough time for all the things and I feel like if you want to really catch that one and you want to work on it really rigorously, if you feel like you're that person that's feeling that way, is you can say to yourself, I'm not managing my time the way I really want to. And begin to start to reprioritize and make really hard decisions about where you're spending your time, how you're spending your time, what it is you're doing, and aligning those with what your real priorities are in your life. Because we're all very influenced by what's going on out in the world if we're attached to it. And a lot of the messages out there are, oh, is you need to be doing this, you need to have this, this is the greatest way to do it. We're big influencers. Everybody's being influenced by every other influencer. So if you're being influenced by all that, you're like, I have to, but I have to. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm here to say,
Yes.
no, you don't.
And, it's so interesting because when you were talking about the languaging that comes up, maybe when when you're feeling lack, right? I mean, the words that come up for me, even in that, are I'll never have,
Good.
I'll never be,
Yeah.
or I should, right?
Mhm.
Even though
Mhm.
should doesn't feel like a lack or scarcity word, in
It is.
when I use it, it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Those two were coming up for me,
That's
because
great.
when we think about having a scarcity mindset or having a fear-based mindset, we talk about this sometimes, is it fear-based or is it love-based, right? Is
Mhm.
it fear-based? Is it hope-based? Is it fear-based?
Mm.
Is it trust-based, right? So getting your
Mm.
head around that,
Yeah.
it really does make me think about all of those things. The lack and scarcity brings me back to less than.
Yes.
I am
Yeah.
less than, my life is less than, my time is less than, right?
No. No.
It really focuses on the shortcomings
Right.
rather than what we talked about in our last episode, the abundance.
Mhm.
So how
Yes.
can you turn off that fear-based living, decision making, thinking, feeling?
Right.
Right? Yeah. Any
And
tips?
yeah. So the beginning is recognizing it's a habit. No,
Yes.
no, no, there isn't necessarily any truth to anything that's going on there. It may be a story that you carry as your truth. It may feel like your truth. And in some respects, it may be your truth. I don't know where you're listening and what the condition of your life is. So I can't speak to you wholly on that. But I would say for many of us that we're talking about in the broader population here in the Western world, right? It's just a story that we carry that really might not have a whole lot of truth to it. And so to be able to challenge that, right from the beginning, is if I'm going to work on this in my life, if I'm going to release fear and scarcity thinking and negativity and feeling lack, feeling less than, then I have to challenge my thinking, and I have to be aware of my feelings, and I have to know that my feelings also are coming from my beliefs and the way that I'm experiencing the world right now around me, the way that my story is coming through to me and my life is coming through to me. And I can challenge that at any moment to just say, this is what I got is,
Yes.
giving up giving up responsibility essentially for the way that you think and what's going on internally. And this is what I love about inner work and this beautiful work is that I think for a control freak like I am, I own that I'm a control freak. Believe me, if you came to my house, you could see how neat it is. You'd be like, oh, she's a control freak. Yes, I am. I like my house neat. But one of the things I love, right, about this work is that guess what? I'm in control. I get to think, I get to change my thinking if I want to. If I don't like the way that I'm feeling today, I can change the way I'm feeling today. If I don't like my attitude in this situation, I can change my attitude in this situation, right? And so for a control
Yes.
freak, it's like, hey, okay, let's go.
So, I have been to your house, listeners. Please know this. I've been to Laurel's house. I did not know she was a control freak until she said it right now. So, but it
Good.
is interesting, that saying about, um, I don't even know what it is about controlling what you can or controlling your response to things, right? And so
Yeah,
that's a great example.
yeah,
If you are in a situation where you're experiencing lack, less than, scarcity, fear, questioning your
yeah.
thoughts. What am I thinking that's making
Mm,
me feel this way? Um,
right.
and I love the question of, or the statement that it's a story that you carry with you. You know, um,
Mm,
a couple times in my coaching, I have done some money mindset coaching, um, and the money mindset coaching, it really comes down to whose story is that, and
yes.
taking it back to whose story is it? When is the first time you remember hearing that story? Your earliest experience hearing, perhaps that you are less than, right?
Mhm.
Or that, um, you know, the sky is falling, right? I mean, there's a
Mhm.
childhood book on that, we know, right?
Yep.
um, I mean, this fear that we are brought up believing that things will go wrong. Um,
Mm.
you know, those are stories that we carry with us.
That's great. That so we've talked about, the idea of just beginning to take inventory right now, right? Like beginning to do the release work, or what are you afraid of? What's going on in your life right now? Who's around you that's carrying that, right? And so we also, it's really important to look back and say, where did we begin? Where did our life begin? And take inventory of that. How much scarcity was there really there, or how much was projected by the adults in our lives onto us, or how did they um, uh, think about abundance? Did they experience abundance? How did they talk about it? How did they talk about money? How did they talk about um, you know did money grow on trees? Money doesn't grow on trees. What did you hear in your house, right? I have a friend here in Richmond. She's a great if you're looking for a financial advisor in Richmond, I highly recommend her, Roberta Keller. I'll put her contact information in here. But she does like a lot of money mindset stuff. And she really, when she's working with clients, is going back to, what are the stories that you heard? What were the phrases that what does your body resonate to, right? Which is where your belief is, your bedrock of your belief around money. What is it? What is it,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. One of my favorites is money is the root of all evil. Well, no one wants to
Mm.
be deeply connected to the root of all evil, do we? I
I
mean,
know.
how silly is that? But it
Yeah.
is true when I think about, you know, the stories of fear, and fear keeps us safe, right? And so whether we're holding on to some fear based thinking in order to keep us safe, whether it's conscious or not,
Mm.
right? I'm going to suggest that if you need to switch into, out of a lack and scarcity mindset, some fear based thinking, you have to start developing your new stories and your
Yes.
new experiences, right? And
Yes.
so how can you step gently, to the edge or over the edge of your comfort zone and try a few things that might help you switch away or move away from a fear and scarcity mindset.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. We'll go back to like the beginning when we were talking about, and we might have mentioned this too in our last episode of creating an abundant mindset is, finding your people, right? And so I know for so many of us, we feel like life is rich and we have great friendships and we have good, positive family experiences that makes us feel like we have a full life, right? And so, uh, the idea of if you're telling yourself a story like, I can't find my people. I never feel like I have friends that last. Like whatever your current story is that is enforcing this idea of not having your tribe or not feeling connected in the world that you want to has to switch in some way, right? But this is how we change our story. This is the actual way of doing it, right? So instead of running those thoughts through your mind, right, you begin to say, where might I connect today to see if I can find more like-minded people? Where can I go today, or what experience might I have today where I might find somebody that I feel more in tune with, right? You start asking, you get curious, right? Laura, one of Laura's favorite words that I just love, 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 right, is right where get curious about stuff. Where can I? How can I? And begin to use those questions, right? Because that again challenges the story of they're not there and you can't have them. Instead, it's I. The story is I just haven't found them yet, and I want to find them. Yeah.
Yes. And
Hmm.
and there could be a piece of finding them that requires being in a uncomfortable place or letting go of
Yes.
some fear of meeting new people. I know a lot of women, at
Mm.
my age who, don't they, aren't meeting friends and making new friends and and worried that they don't have the opportunity or don't know how to anymore. And so, in my mind, even those worries are a little bit of fear, right?
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
how can you put yourself in situations that are a little bit scary, knowing that it's simply to shift out of a fear based mindset?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it's really important. And then, even in our circles, maybe even in our immediate families or, um, and I don't mean, families of origin, but like in my family with my husband and my daughters, we all we all think about things differently. Our comfort zone in different areas of life are different,
Right.
you know?
Right.
I mean, I can
Mhm.
give you the example with my husband. He is a saver and I admire that. He likes holding on to his money. And
Mhm.
I say, if I have 2 nickels to rub together, I'm good to go. I have no fear where it
Yeah.
comes to, I know that money is coming into my life, and I'm not afraid if one day it doesn't come in, because I believe that it will come again, right?
Mhm.
And that's a whole different mindset. And so how
Yeah.
can it's not that I can not be with him because he maybe has a little bit of, uh, um, I will call it a fear based mindset and needs greater security than I do.
Mhm.
Um, we're together and we balance each other out in that way. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's pretty uncomfortable to have to make or have the conversations about the differences in our belief systems, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I can
Yeah.
give other examples too, where there may be people that like a minimalistic household,
Mhm.
and other people who like an abundance of physical items in their home,
Right.
right? How do you
Yeah.
balance that?
Yes. Yes. And how do you? And again, that comes back to communication and working through those kinds of logistics together. And like you said right at the beginning, right, was what can I learn from this person?
Yes.
Right? That they do it
Yes.
differently than I do in the world. What can I learn? Maybe they have a habit or two that would serve me well if I could practice it for a little while and see how it feels,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up today, Laurel, one of the things that's coming up for me really strong is this idea of, um, you know, beginning to replace scarcity thinking. First, like the beginning is acknowledging it, and then beginning to replace it with questions, or beginning to have a different kind of storyline that takes you in a different trajectory than the one that takes you, where you are right now, maybe circling around in the same place. So that was one of the things. And then the other thing was, in terms of releasing fear, I always feel like it's easier to release fear when we can bring in um, love and try, like you named them right at the beginning of the show. So everybody, if you want to go back to the beginning of the show, Laurel did a great job of going, you know, and instead of fear, can we trust? Instead of fear, can we have faith? Instead of this, can we have that? Right? Like beginning to uh, cultivate the ability to bring up different feeling states. So instead of feeling like I'm stuck in fear, how can you get out of fear? You can get out of fear by feeling love, by trusting things are going to be okay, by looking at examples of how good life can be, and I don't need to focus on how awful it can be, right? Like, how do we actually do what we're talking about today? And they're all practices.
They are. And
Yeah.
I love that. It reminded me of a practice that I often use with clients, um, by calling out, acknowledging, noticing the emotion, right?
Hmm.
And calling it by name
Yeah.
as if it's a friend. And so I use this example a lot with fear.
Mm.
And I say, and I encourage my clients to do this. Hello, fear, my oldest and dearest friend.
Mm.
What are you here to tell me today? Right.
Mm.
And so that noticing of what it is that you're feeling,
Yes.
and bringing it closer to you, and learning, and engaging, and holding it safe as if it really is there for you.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and that really ties into, often I ask myself whether it's a reaction I have to something or someone, or an action that I want to take, um, a decision that I'm in the process of making. The question comes up: is this fear based or love based? Right?
Mm. Yeah.
And
That's
that
great.
really, it helps me, because in that moment, I know I don't want to live a fear based life.
Yeah.
You know, it's, and so I then can make another decision after recognizing which, you know, which
Hmm.
side of the teeter totter is it on? Where do I want to sit? And how can I move in that way?
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So good. So good. So, anything else like really coming in strongly for you, or any final journaling questions coming up for you for our listeners today, Laurel, as we wrap up?
No, nothing's coming for journaling questions with me, but
Mm.
just that one of the the threads, I think, in many of our podcasts, in our last one and this one, is the noticing,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And
That's such the
so
beginning. Yeah.
maybe it is a journaling question of, am I willing and able to notice
Mhm.
what makes me uncomfortable when I'm noticing too much or too often, right? What is it about noticing?
Mm.
Where's my resistance in noticing?
Yeah, that's good.
What about
That's
you?
good. I feel like not so much journaling questions for this one either. I feel like this one is so much about practice. So I guess my final question, for our listeners today is, what could you practice differently? Go back through the podcast, take some notes on all the suggestions that we made around the ways that we have experienced and suggest working with fear and scarcity thinking? And what's a practice that you can begin with today? And just start small, start somewhere, and begin to modify, what your story is. If you have a story that's based in fear and based in scarcity thinking, time to rewrite the story, and you can do it. You're the only one that can.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's pretty good.
That's good. Okay. Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you, Laurel. And we have a couple more mindset Mondays here this month. So we'll be
Yeah.
back for more really soon.
Yes. Kicking off January, changing our
Absolutely.
mindset.
Changing our
Have a great
mindset.
day.
Have a great day. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.